Welcome to episode 47 of the Sisters in Service podcast. I am Kat Corchado. My guest today is Lorin Hayes, who is an Army veteran who faced adversity after marrying her husband and felt as though she needed to leave the Army early because of it. However, in the meantime, she has acquired 2 degrees. She has started her coaching career. She is also a published author of her book, Camouflaged Love and Memoir. So I hope you enjoyed this segment of episode 47, and now on to the interview. Welcome to episode 47 of the Sisters in Service podcast. I am your host, Kat Corchado, and my guest today is Lorin Hayes. She's an Army veteran. She's the owner and business owner of Heart for Hope, LLC. She does a myriad of things, including she's an author, and we'll talk about that. But welcome, Lorin, to Sisters in Service. So happy to have you.
Thank you, Kat, for having me.
Of course. So let's first talk about your Army career. So I always ask everybody who comes on to Sisters in Service, I ask them this question: did you pick the Army or did the Army pick you?
I think the Army picked me.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. How did that happen? I need to hear the story.
Okay. So my uncle, who is the same age as me, my parents had guardianship of him when my grandmother died. And so the Army recruiter actually came to talk to him because we were both 18. And then they found out that I was 18. So they started talking to me. So that's why I said the Army picked me, because I feel like, I wasn't really considering up until that point going into any service. But yeah.
So they were trying to get a 2-for-1. Weren't they?
Yes.
They were trying to get a 2 for.
And then funny enough, he wound up later joining the Air Force. So it didn't work for him, but
it didn't work. Oh, he picked the Air Force. Okay. Okay. So how long were you in the Army?
I was in for 4 years.
And what was your job? What did you do?
I was a chaplain assistant, which you know what that is?
You're the first. No.
Because people oftentimes they either confuse it with the chaplain or they're like, I don't know what that is. So yeah. So a chaplain assistant, I think sometimes in some branches, they call them religious affairs specialist.
Yes, that's what they call it in the Air Force.
Yes. I think they even call it in the Army now they call it that, but it used to be a chaplain assistant. And so the chaplain, can be a priest, a rabbi, an imam. So any recognized religion within the Army, and the chaplain assistant's job is to provide religious support. So for the unit, if you're in a line unit, you are making accommodations for those that have, special food things if you're going in the field, because, they have restrictions like Muslims and some, I think, Seventh-day Adventists, they can't have pork and stuff like that. And so, right. And Jewish people too. So you would need to know that to kind of prepare and just different religious accommodations. And the chaplain a lot of times does counseling. So you do a lot of scheduling. I worked at 2 different places. I worked at the chapel, which they have all kinds of like events besides just services. They would have like FRG meetings there sometimes, like just different trainings. We would do memorials, we would do funerals, and kind of assisting with that scheduling. It's like a little bit of everything, but then
if you're,
yeah,
it sounds like you did quite a bit,
but if you're deployed, you are essentially a bodyguard because the chaplain is a non-combatant. So you are the one that carries the gun for them. So that is.
Wow. That's like double duty. I had no idea that you had to do that also. So did you have to know a lot about different religions? Like, were there religions you knew nothing about that you had to learn a little bit about?
Yes. So you have to learn the basics as far as setup, like you had to set up the altars and stuff like that and kind of know, it is also your job to kind of know, what's it called? We would go to the commander's briefings. And so if you have to know, like, this is their religion, this is the holy days, this is that. So you do have to know some of it, but it's not like you have to know everything. Like I didn't have to read every religious like Bible or Quran. Like you don't have to do that. You don't necessarily have to have a religion. Some don't, some do, different types. So yeah, it's really just kind of just knowing the basis of that. Like we did learn like the different names like chalices and stuff like that. So you can set up. And
that's kind of important.
yes,
Just
liturgical colors. So there's some things that you do kind of know, but yeah, that's kind of the basis of it.
wow. So you get out of the military. Were you ready to get out? Did you know what you wanted to do?
Yeah.
And how was your transition coming out of the Army?
Oh yeah. No, I wasn't ready to get out actually. It was pretty rough, even though I transitioned from being into being a military spouse because my husband was also in. He was also a chaplain assistant actually. But it was really hard. I didn't actually want to get out. I was actually trying to change units to deploy with my husband in the same brigade. And there's a whole situation that like happened where they didn't want us together. We had a racist chaplain, unfortunately. And so my husband is Black, I'm white. Because this is recorded, they might not see me. So, but anyway, we had issues with them trying to get us in legal trouble and all this stuff. And so I was trying to transfer out of our unit into a different unit. And they were just trying some shady stuff to try to get me to re-enlist and then promise me that they were going to transfer me, but not, if it's not in writing. I was like, no, that's okay. So I just got out. Like I had enough leave saved up for like 3 months of leave. And so it was like 10 days of clearing and that was it. Like it was really, there was not a good chance.
You were in and then you were out.
Yeah.
Like, bye. See ya. Well, the military, when they try to get married couples together, they consider being in the same theater, the same, like, yeah. Oh, well, you're together. You're both in the country of Germany, but you're like 1,000 miles apart.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for trying.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how did you find your way? What did you decide to do? After that, I'm sure it didn't feel good to you at the time. Yeah. And, it sounds like it was just really difficult for you. How did you find your way through it?
At first, I kind of just felt lost, but my husband, like I got out and then my husband deployed I think it was about a year later. And so during that time, I was doing school, like I was finishing my degree and I was just kind of hurt. I didn't want to be around anything military wise. So I don't know. I just kind of, I was a little down. I was a little depressed, I think.
Yeah,
and I had some,
residual. I would have been, I'm just saying.
I had some residual problems also from a sexual assault that happened in the service. And so I really kind of just tried to distance myself from all things military, even though I was a spouse. So that's kind of funny. And then I wound up just working and going to school, even when my husband was deployed. And when he came back after a few years, we started having kids and that became kind of my thing. And I was always in school having kids. So I earned my first degree I earned without kids, but then my bachelor's degree I earned with kids.
You said degrees, plural. How many degrees do you have?
I just have 2.
Just 2 people, just 2. She only has 2.
I got my associates in like paraeducation. So like to be like a teacher assistant. And I was working in daycares as like a teacher and then like a substitute teacher and then a teacher. And then I was like, I don't know if this is for me. And so I went back to school and then I finally kind of landed on psychology. And so I finished my degree. I had a 2 and a 3-year-old at the time and I finished cum laude, which I don't know how, it was a lot of crying involved in trying to finish that.
Psychology just sounds like there's just, oof, it sounds rough. Yeah. But I also know that you're a certified relationship coach. So how do you get certified as a relationship coach?
Right. So I went through this program by someone who is an ICF coach. And so that's the International Coaching Federation. And so coaching is not regulated as much. They're trying to get it regulated. I imagine eventually it will be. But so kind of anyone can be a coach, whether or not they have experience or background. But I just wanted to get that, know what I'm doing, kind of that framework for referencing. So I actually just started looking online and there's like 1,001, there's so many coaching programs. Yeah. And
and types of coach, everyone's a coach.
Yes. I have realized that. I didn't realize how many people are a coach until I became a coach. I don't know if that's just because I didn't it's like once you're in the field, you see it more or something. I don't know. I didn't realize how many people. But yeah, so it was just a program. So they have different like what do you call it? Models of coaching. And so I went through a program, and the woman who did it was a Christian. So we do like a Christian model, which is kind of like it brings God into it, brings people of faith into it, but you don't really have to have faith to even still use it. Just kind of like you don't have to be a certain faith to use it. Just kind of, I feel like we're all spiritual beings too. So even if you're not a person of faith, I feel like there's some kind of wholesome connection. So I still feel like it could be helpful, but there's other, kind of ones, but it's basically you're seeing where people are, having a vision of where they want to go, and you're kind of guiding them through this, right? I'm not telling people what to do. I am asking questions and coming alongside them to kind of push them to think where they won't be able to think by themselves. They might have not thought of that. And kind of, they had to make the choice though, just like it's the same thing in a lot of fields, like even in counseling, like you can help them, but they have to do the steps. So it's kind
they
of
have to work. They have to
yeah,
do the work.
you're helping them.
You can't graduate to the next grade if you didn't do the homework and the tests and studied and everything. So are you taking clients, or I shouldn't say client, I guess I should say couples? I guess it's still clients.
Yeah, it's still clients. So far my clients have all been just female. Some of them are military spouses, and actually that's all it's been so far, military spouses, but I am trying to get into just veterans, like women veterans, and it affects their family. So I can do couples or not, but I like to work on their relationships. So that could be parenting, because before I got certified, kind of the path that led me down that was I was doing parenting coaching for a local mental health facility. And so they didn't call it that. I was a family partner. And so for kids that were going through mental health struggles, from anything from ADHD all the way to like schizophrenia. And so just helping the parents navigate like school and the medical facility, and just have someone to like talk to. And I ran groups and stuff like that, support groups. And so it was just kind of an extension of that. I thought I loved doing that part. And I thought, I really want to do this for women, especially military women, because I just felt so lost when I got out that I was like, if I had someone to kind of help me figure out what I want to do and not get lost, because I felt lost in the, labels of being a military spouse and then mom, that I kind of like lost me a little bit, and it's like, well, what do I want to do? Like whatever gifts I felt that God had, put in each person. Like, I just was like not doing that. And I just felt very low. So I was really excited. I mean, that's one good thing about the pandemic, I guess, because I got certified during, I was like, I have a lot of time.
You used your time correctly. A lot of people just thought about how they were closed off from everybody. And I tried to use, as you did, try to use my time wisely. Now you just had do you say open? You just formulated. That's the word I'm looking for. Your own LLC called Heart for Hope. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, I started my own company, and so it's going to encompass my my life coaching business, and then also publishing. I hope to do more books and maybe help other people publish their books. And so it's just encompassing helping people have hope, and all that I do, kind of inspiring. So I published a book also during the pandemic while I was homeschooling my kids. I don't know why I chose to do that all at once, because that was kind of crazy. But anyway.
Especially with, you have 4 kids?
Yes, I have 4 kids.
Okay, 4 kids. Wow. Okay.
And some with extra needs. One of my son is on the autism spectrum. So yeah. But yeah, so I wound up publishing a book. I'd always thought about it, but I think, we had a lot of time to sit in our house and think when we couldn't go anywhere. And there's a lot of like stories happening just about like the racial injustice and stuff like that happening. And I was talking to some of my friends, I was talking to all my friends, but my white family and friends were like asking us questions because, like, well, you guys are a biracial couple. What do you think about this? And I was surprised that some of even my closer friends and family had no idea of like some of the things that my husband has faced. And so I was like, what? And then I was like, maybe I'm not talking about this enough. Like, we don't talk about it enough. Like some things happen like daily, or at least there's a weekly occurrence of something. And so I started to write down our story because it had been kind of that struggle of having to deal with racism, just with people didn't want us being together, and then mistreating my husband, and like when we were dating, and then, later getting married.
Of course, yeah.
And so just our story, like, I guess I hadn't really talked that much about it all the time. Like, people don't know, like, usually when people ask me about my service, I'm not going to go into that whole explanation of this terrible stuff happened to me.
Right.
I'm usually like, well, I met my husband and I met a few good friends. So that's the good that come of it. Like, that's the mindset I usually take. Like, if some stranger asks me, I'm not going to be like, well, this happened. And so I had written down all the stories and stuff like that. And I was going to just publish for me. And then for my kids, I thought so they can kind of know what we went through. But then I was writing it and I was like, this is not for kids. The stuff in there is kind of, hard. And, but I felt like it could be, especially for women, just like women like me, and just have felt like you lost your power and stuff. And I was just able to get through forgiveness and stuff like that. Of course, with counseling too, but it was very therapeutic to write about the stuff that I had sometimes forget. And I felt like God would wake me up at like 2 a.m. and I'm like, better write that story. So I would just jot down, like, write the time when you went on your first date or whatever, or like, like, I was remembering things that I had like suppressed and
Forgotten about. Yeah.
Yeah. It was crazy. And then
it's hard to counsel yourself.
Yeah.
Just like it's hard to be your own coach, even coaches have coaches,
Yeah.
But also when you're in the thick of it. So when you face something on a daily basis, okay. So you say that you have a kid who's on the spectrum for autism, you said?
Yes.
So you deal with that on a day-to-day basis. So a parent who doesn't have to deal with it doesn't understand maybe certain avenues that you've had to go through or certain things you've been through because of that.
Yeah.
And, when it's in your face day in and day out and you deal with it, it's different than when you've never had to do. I mean, I still go back to basic training where I was in a group with women who said they'd never met a Black person before.
Oh.
Yeah. And I just thought, what? I mean, it shocks me to hear me say it, but it was just very, very interesting, that if you've never been around, like anyone, of different countries, different origins, different religions, et cetera, I was born into the military. So I was used to seeing all of that.
Yeah.
And it's, so we say, oh, well, they speak with an accent. Okay. I'm okay with that. No problem. Yeah. So let's talk about your book a little bit. So for those of you that don't know, Lorin is a published author. Her book is called Camouflaged Love, a Memoir. It was an Amazon bestseller and made it's number 10 on the military families category. And so we heard a little bit about why she started the book. How long did it take you to write the book?
It took I would say a good 9 months to write it. And it was mainly the hard chapters. Like I wrote all the easy ones, like the happy ones. Like I could write about our wedding. I could write about, but it was the harder ones, one chapter, I decided to put it all in one chapter. So that way, I don't know. I was like, so people could skip it if they want to read that part. But of just being a female in the military was the one chapter. And it talks about just sometimes just sexist things, sometimes just a sexual harassment, all the way up to the sexual assault that I endured. And so that one was the last one I wrote because I didn't want to write it. And I didn't even know if I was going to put it in the book. But my editor kind of nudged me to like, you can't, because I had like made a mention of it, but not like said anything more about it. Just like, this happened. She's like, you either got to like, I know it's hard, but you either got to like say something about it and you don't have to give every single detail, or you got to take it out because otherwise it's too much left unknown. And so I really wrestled with that, but I'm glad that I put it in there because, towards the end when I was getting edited, Vanessa Guillen thing happened. And it's like a lot of military bases had this problem. And I know like all the female veterans I know have had at least sexual harassment happen to them. So it's like, this is happening and people don't know, maybe outside the military or, so I thought I better keep that in there because that's I felt like it was kind of giving a voice so maybe others will share their story. And so
that's not a good statistic.
No,
Just saying, that's not a good statistic. No. I mean, even, in the Air Force way back when I was in, and I usually work with mostly men. There might've been one other woman, but then she PCS'd and, it ended up being me. And I remember I had gone to my next base and I was working and how sometimes you just know someone's either standing beside you or standing in front of you.
Yeah.
And this young airman was standing there with the coffee container. It was empty. And I looked at him, I'm like, what? And he said, aren't you making coffee? I said, no, I don't drink the coffee. I'm not making the coffee. And he looked confused, And so flash forward about, I don't know, a couple months. And I actually wanted some coffee. So I made some coffee. So he walks in and he sees the coffee and he looks at me, he looks at the coffee. And he's standing there with the container of coffee. And I'm like, what? He goes, I thought you didn't make coffee. I said, I wanted some coffee. So I made some coffee for the whole office. You're welcome. And again, he had that look of confusion on his face, but you have to be, my situation was different. And I'm not sure why it was different because when the whole Vanessa Guillen thing happened and my husband asked me, he said, were you ever sexually harassed? And I was like, no. But I don't, and I'm not really sure why I wasn't. I mean, I know that sounds weird, but a lot of women more so now are either talking about it or they're experiencing it. And I'm trying to figure out what the change is, what's different. And I don't understand what that is. And that's what I'm trying to understand. So no, I'm not a psychologist or anything, but I'm just trying to figure it out. That's why I want women to talk about their story. So, because the more we talk about, the more people hear about it, the more we can change it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense. So where can we buy your book, Lorin?
So it is on Amazon. It's ebook and paperback. So if you look in it and it has, the picture is me and my husband making a heart shape and the Alaskan mountains behind us, because that's where it takes place.
Nice.
That's where we were stationed in Alaska. But I kind of think what you're saying, I think maybe the Me Too movement kind of started this off because it feels like when someone was brave enough to share, then other people are brave enough to come forward. So maybe that's why. And maybe before, like, no one was listening to women. They're just kind of like, okay, be quiet, or, and so I feel like now we have found more of a voice. That could be
maybe it's more that it's just out in the open more, not that it's happening more, but people are talking about it more.
Yeah.
Well, let's hope people are listening. Did you self-publish your book?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
How hard is that? I've heard of people doing that, but how hard is that?
It's just a big learning curve. I don't particularly feel like that part was hard. I think I had it 3 different types of edited, which even if you're self-publishing, I would highly recommend getting an editor. I'm not an editor, so this is not trying to get, but just because, I think it polished up my book and made it more professional and made it like kind of, I feel like it can stay on the shelf with other ones that are published by, other companies, the bigger.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't have to pay anybody to actually do it, but again, when you're editing, it's hard to edit your own stuff.
Yes.
Because you say, hey, there's a mistake here, page 5, page 20. Yeah. You're like, wait, I just looked it over. It's hard editing your own stuff.
I think like anyone the easiest thing to edit, the easiest thing to publish would be an ebook. There's no cost. Like right now you can go and publish something on Amazon through the ebook and it's 0 cost. That's kind of amazing, right?
Know. Yeah.
But of course you're going to pay if you get it edited and stuff like that. But I think if I didn't have it edited, I would have all these glaring, spelling mistakes or whatever else, even though I use programs to kind of help with that. Then it wouldn't have, I think people would stop reading it. Like there is 10 spelling mistakes on this page. Like it just doesn't, it's not as readable, but yeah, it's pretty easy. It's just a learning process. Like I had to learn the steps of doing it and formatting it, stuff like that. I formatted it. My husband helps with the book cover actually. So we did a lot of it.
It was a joint effort.
Yes. I had
love
him
that.
do that. So he does like a minor in art. And so he took a class. So he was like, I can do this. I'm like, can you put these two pictures together and make a, because you can pay someone for everything. Like even if you can't, right?
But then the book ends up being $50, for a copy.
Oh yes, that is true.
It looks perfect and everything.
Definitely. The thing about having a book is I think people think you can get rich writing books. And I don't know because, even Amazon's taking a cut of your book, like when you're selling it on Amazon.
Of course.
I think it's more of getting people drawn to you or being seen as a like professional and whatever, wherever you work. Like if you're a life coach and you do something on confidence or something like that, it's like, hey, I have this book. So it can be like a lead magnet, I think sometimes, but yeah. I am going to write more books. Like I already have plans for some more books. I want to do a book with my husband on kind of deployment, when he deployed and I was home, and just kind of like both of our sides. So that's going to be our next book.
His story, her story.
Yes. And because, when he came back, he had really bad PTSD. And so we had to work through like a lot of things. And so, which he still deals with it, but it's better than it was. But, and I want to do books for children, with different needs. This is not related to Army, but,
it doesn't have to be. They don't have to be related. I know that much. And I'm not even a published author.
Yeah.
You can be, you have a lot of different avenues where you could be the subject matter expert only because you've been through it. You've lived it. And, that's part of your story. But how do people get in contact with you if they want to, just ask you questions about how to publish a book, what you did, or just, about your services, about your new business, et cetera?
Right. So I am on Facebook. I think it's at Lorin Hayes Author. Oh my gosh. I don't know. And I do have a website, lorinhayes.com. It's kind of under construction. So I don't know. I feel like it doesn't look as pretty as I want it to, but it can get you to me. And then I do have Instagram too, which is I think it's just at Lorin R. Hayes. So
right. Now I did meet Lorin on Clubhouse. So Lorin, do you have your own room, or do you have, a room where you're talking about being an author or anything like that?
So I am on Clubhouse. I am in a She Vets It room, which I, work with Althea. That's her room. So I help moderate in the marriage room. I think I would like to eventually maybe open a room in one of these things on how to publish a book. Cause I feel like a lot of military women have stories that they want to tell, or maybe even just write down, or even if you're not going to, publish it for the world, maybe for your own family. And so I think that I want to do something like that.
And you should.
Yeah.
You should have your own room. So if you're not on Clubhouse, you should be. No, they are not paying me to say this, but it's a way to, meet people and hear them speak and get involved without having to travel. I mean, I have people that I consider my friends that I've never met them, but we're always in the same rooms. Like She Vets It is one of those rooms. So Lorin,
Woven, right? Woven. That's how I first met you. Woven.
Oh yeah. Well, the Women Veterans Network. See, yes. You guys heard it. I didn't say it. She said it, y'all. The Women Veterans Network. Yes. Yeah. You and Althea are actually doing a group together. So that's so awesome. And I'm so glad to have you guys part of the Woven family. Any last words before we say goodbye?
I guess I would just want to say thank you for talking to me, and that I love that you're doing a platform to help other sister veterans be able to use their voice. And I would just want more people to speak up.
Yes.
And tell our stories. Yeah.
Yes. And that's why I do that, and celebrating those women who are, walking through that fear and actually doing what they're meant to be doing. So that's what fuels me is just knowing that everyone has a story. They just need a platform to talk about it. So
Yeah.
You heard it here, folks. And I'm so happy that you guys were able to tune in, learn a little bit about Lorin and her book and her company and everything that's going on with her. And as always, please stay safe, take care of each other, and until next time.